The Galactic Empire was powerful, with a vast fleet of ships that ruled the stars. For years, they had crushed any threat that dared to challenge them. Their ships were massive and heavily armed, and their commanders were confident in their abilities. They thought they were invincible. But today, a new message came in that changed everything. In the command center of the Empire's flagship, Imperator, a group of high-ranking officers gathered. They were watching the screens that showed the galaxy around them. Suddenly, an officer named Commander Laris pointed to a small dot on the display. "Look, what is that?" he asked, squinting at the screen. Another officer, Admiral Zorak, took a closer look. "It's just a human ship," he said, shaking his head. "A single vessel. They must be lost." Laris frowned. "But it's heading right for us. Shouldn't we check it out?" Zorak waved his hand dismissively. "It's not worth our time. A lone human ship poses no threat. We have the largest fleet in the galaxy." Meanwhile, on the small ship, the Resolute, Captain Elena Cruz stood at the helm. She gazed out at the stars with determination. The crew had worked hard to upgrade their ship, and now they were ready for action. The Resolute was not just any human vessel. It was equipped with advanced technology that few knew about. Elena knew the Empire underestimated them. She smiled as she thought of how surprised they would be when they faced her. "Get ready, everyone!" she called out to her crew. "We have a mission to complete." Her crew, a mix of skilled pilots and engineers, looked at her with excitement. They believed in their captain and her plans. They knew the risks, but they were ready to fight for their home. As they approached the Imperial fleet, Elena activated the ship's cloaking system. The Resolute became invisible to enemy sensors. "We're almost there," she said, her heart racing. "Stay alert." Back on the Imperator, Commander Laris stared at the empty space where the ship had been. "It should be right here," he said, puzzled. "Why can't we see it?" Admiral Zorak waved him off again. "It's nothing. It probably turned back. We have bigger things to worry about." But Elena was not turning back. She had a plan. With a steady hand, she adjusted the controls, preparing for their attack. The crew watched, anxious but ready. "Captain, we have a clear shot at the flagship," one of the gunners reported. "Take it," Elena ordered, her voice filled with confidence. Suddenly, the cloaking device dropped, revealing the Resolute to the Imperial fleet. Gasps echoed across the command deck of the Imperator. "There it is!" Laris shouted, panic rising in his voice. "Prepare to engage!" But before the Empire could react, the Resolute fired its powerful weapons. Bright beams of energy shot out, striking the Imperator. The flagship shook as alarms blared. "Return fire!" Zorak shouted, but it was too late. The crew of the Resolute was already moving with precision and skill. They were not just a single ship, they were a united force, fueled by the hope of all humanity. As the Resolute danced through the chaos of battle, Captain Cruz felt a surge of pride. They had trained for this moment, and now it was happening. They were making a stand against the Galactic Empire. In the heart of the Imperial fleet, confusion spread. The officers who had laughed at the human ship were now scrambling to respond. Their arrogance had blinded them to the truth. They were about to learn that the human spirit was stronger than they had ever imagined. The battle had begun, and the Empire would soon realize that they had underestimated their enemy. The Resolute was not just a ship, it was a symbol of resistance. And Captain Elena Cruz was ready to show the galaxy what humans could do when pushed to the edge. The battle was on, and the atmosphere was electric. The Resolute moved with speed and agility, darting through the vastness of space. Captain Elena Cruz gripped the controls, her heart pounding with excitement. She could see the Imperial fleet ahead, and they were not ready for what was about to come. "Everyone brace yourselves!" Elena shouted to her crew. "This is our chance to show them what humans can do." The crew responded with cheers. They had trained for this moment, and now it was finally happening. They were about to strike a blow against the mighty Galactic Empire. As the Resolute closed in, the Imperial ships began to react. The Imperator and its escorts turned to face the incoming threat, their weapons powering up. But Elena had a plan. She activated the ship's advanced targeting systems, ready to unleash their firepower. "Lock onto the flagship," she commanded. The ship's systems hummed as they targeted the Imperator. "Locked on, Captain," said Ensign Rhea, a bright young officer at the weapons console.
"Fire!"
Elena ordered. The Resolute fired a volley of energy blasts, and the bright beams shot through space. They struck the Imperator with explosive force. The flagship shook violently, and alarms blared throughout the ship. Crew members stumbled as they struggled to keep their footing. "What just happened?" Commander Laris shouted on the Imperator. He looked at the damage reports with disbelief. "Captain, we're taking heavy fire," an officer yelled. "The human ship is attacking us!" Zorak clenched his fists, frustration bubbling inside him. "Focus on returning fire! Show them the power of the Empire!" Back on the Resolute, the crew cheered as their first attack hit home. "We did it!" Rhea exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "Don't celebrate yet," Elena reminded them. "We need to keep moving. Stay alert!" As the Resolute danced through enemy fire, the crew worked in perfect harmony. They had practiced every maneuver, and now it was paying off. The ship weaved in and out, dodging incoming shots while returning fire with deadly accuracy. "Captain, they're trying to surround us," warned Tarek, the pilot. "Then let's break through," Elena replied, determination in her voice. "Full speed ahead!" The Resolute surged forward, breaking through the line of Imperial ships. As they did, they fired at anything in their path. Explosions lit up the dark void of space as enemy ships were hit one after another. "Direct hit on the left flank," Rhea shouted, her voice filled with excitement. "They're losing formation!" Elena grinned, feeling a surge of pride for her crew. "Keep pushing! We can't let up now!" But the Empire was not going down easily. They regrouped and returned fire with a vengeance. The Imperator unleashed its weapons, aiming at the Resolute. Energy blasts flew through space, illuminating the darkness. "Captain, they're firing back!" Tarek warned. Elena tightened her grip on the controls. "Hold steady! We can take it!" The Resolute rocked as shots hit its shields, but the ship held strong. The crew worked frantically, adjusting systems and preparing for another strike. "Target the nearest ship," Elena ordered. "Ready to fire!" Rhea shouted, excitement tinging her voice. "Fire!" Elena commanded again. The Resolute unleashed another barrage, and this time it struck a smaller Imperial ship. The vessel exploded in a brilliant flash, sending debris spinning through space. The crew cheered, feeling their confidence grow with each victory. But the Empire was starting to take the threat seriously. "We need to form a blockade!" Zorak shouted on the Imperator. "Don't let them escape!" Elena watched as more enemy ships closed in. The battle was heating up, and the stakes were higher than ever. The crew of the Resolute had awakened a sleeping giant. As the dust settled, Elena knew this was just the beginning. They had made their mark, but the Empire would not back down easily. The encounter had begun, and both sides were ready for the fight of their lives. The battle raged on in the depths of space. The Resolute was surrounded by Imperial ships, but Captain Elena Cruz refused to back down. She knew they had to fight harder than ever. Each explosion lit up the dark void, marking the struggle between the human vessel and the mighty Galactic Empire. "Stay focused, everyone!" Elena shouted over the noise of alarms and chaos. "We've already shown them they can bleed. Let's keep pushing!" The crew of the Resolute was fueled by adrenaline and determination. They had come so far, and the spirit of humanity burned bright within them. Each crew member was ready to do their part. They were not just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for everyone who had ever been oppressed by the Empire. "Captain, we're taking damage on the starboard side," reported Ensign Rhea, her fingers flying over the controls. "Reinforce the shields on that side," Elena ordered, "and keep firing at the enemy." As the crew worked in unison, the Resolute dodged and weaved through enemy fire. The ship was fast and agile, using its smaller size to its advantage. It was like a nimble dancer among heavy, lumbering opponents. "Target the ship on our right," Elena called. "Locked on," Rhea replied, her eyes sharp and focused.
"Fire!"
Elena commanded. The Resolute unleashed a series of energy blasts. One hit the enemy ship squarely, causing it to spiral out of control. The crew erupted in cheers, their spirits lifting with each small victory. "Great shot, Captain!" Rhea shouted, her excitement evident. But the Empire was not done yet. As the Resolute celebrated their small wins, the Imperator and its remaining ships regrouped, preparing for a counterattack. "We can't let them get organized," Elena said, feeling the tension in the air. "Let's split them up. Tarek, take us to the left flank." "On it," Tarek responded, his hands steady on the controls. The Resolute darted to the left, where fewer Imperial ships were positioned. The crew saw their chance and took it. They fired at the ships in their path, hitting them hard and fast. "Captain, we're breaking through," Rhea announced, her voice filled with excitement. Elena could see it too. The Empire was struggling to keep up with their speed and tactics. "Keep moving! Don't give them a chance to regroup!" As they pressed on, the tide of battle began to shift. The Imperial ships that had once seemed so powerful were now vulnerable. The Resolute struck again and again, taking down one ship after another. "Direct hit on the engine!" Tarek cheered, watching as another enemy vessel exploded into a shower of sparks. The crew felt invincible. They were fighting with everything they had, and it showed. But the Imperator was still a formidable opponent, and its commander, Admiral Zorak, was not about to give up. "Reinforce our defenses!" Zorak shouted, his voice echoing through the Imperator. "We cannot let this human ship win." The Empire's remaining ships began to close in, attempting to form a blockade. Elena noticed the change in their tactics and knew they were getting desperate. "Rhea, can we slip past them?" she asked. "Yes, Captain, but it will be tight," Rhea replied, her eyes wide with determination. "Do it!" Elena ordered. "We can't let them surround us." With a swift maneuver, Tarek piloted the Resolute through a narrow gap between two Imperial ships. The crew held their breath as the ship barely missed colliding with the enemy vessels. "Now fire at their engines," Elena commanded. The crew acted quickly, targeting the enemy ship's engines. The Resolute fired, and several explosions rocked the enemy formation. Panic spread among the Imperial forces as their ships began to fall apart. "Captain, they're breaking!" Rhea shouted, her voice filled with joy. "Keep the pressure on!" Elena replied, feeling the tide of battle shift in their favor. As more Imperial ships fell, the remaining forces began to retreat. The crew of the Resolute watched in disbelief as the once mighty Galactic Empire was forced to flee. The tide had turned, and they had done it together. Elena smiled, filled with pride for her crew. "We did it!" she exclaimed. "But we can't let our guard down. Stay sharp!" The battle was not over yet, but they had proven one thing. A lone human vessel could take on the Empire and emerge victorious. The crew knew they had made a mark on history, and their fight was far from over. The battle had reached a critical moment. The Resolute had pushed the Imperial fleet back, but Captain Elena Cruz knew the fight was not yet over. The Imperator, the flagship of the Galactic Empire, still loomed large in the distance, its massive guns pointed toward the brave human ship. The Empire was down but not out, and they were about to make their last stand. "Everyone, this is it!" Elena called to her crew, her voice strong and clear. "We have them on the run, but we need to finish this." The crew responded with cheers, their spirits high after the recent victories. But Elena could see the determination in their eyes. They understood the risks ahead. They had come this far together, and now they had to see it through. "Rhea, can you get a read on their weapons?" Elena asked. Rhea's fingers flew over her console as she accessed the ship's sensors. "I can see their power levels rising. They're preparing to fire." "Then we need to act fast," Elena said. "Target their main weapon system and prepare to fire." The crew sprang into action, their movements quick and efficient. Tarek piloted the Resolute closer to the Imperator, dodging incoming shots with expert precision. "Hold steady," Elena commanded as the ship shook from the enemy fire. "We can take it!" As they neared the flagship, Rhea confirmed their target was locked. "Ready to fire, Captain!"
"Fire!"
Elena shouted. "Let's take advantage of the confusion," Elena urged. "Move in closer." The USS Valiant darted toward the nearest Imperial ship, weaving through enemy fire. The crew worked like a well-oiled machine, firing back at the enemy. Each blast was filled with purpose as they fought for their lives. Elena felt the adrenaline rush through her veins. This was their moment. More enemy ships responded to the attack, and the battle escalated quickly. Explosions rocked the area as Imperial fighters engaged, trying to regain control. But the Valiant was agile and quick, darting between the larger ships with ease. "Here they come!" Sarah the engineer shouted. "2 fighters on our tail!" "Not for long," Elena replied, spinning the ship sharply. The Valiant executed a daring maneuver, sending the 2 enemy fighters crashing into an asteroid. The crew erupted in cheers, their confidence soaring with each victory. "Let's keep moving," Jacob urged. "We need to break their formation." Elena nodded, her focus unwavering. They pushed deeper into the heart of the Imperial fleet, firing at one ship after another. The Valiant became a whirlwind of energy, striking down enemies left and right. Their small size made them hard to target, allowing the crew to continue their assault. But the Empire was not done yet. Korik, furious and desperate, sent in more ships to confront the human vessel. "We will crush that ship!" he roared. "Deploy the heavy artillery!" Elena felt the weight of the Empire's fury as she watched larger Imperial ships move in to surround them. "We have to stay mobile," she shouted. "Don't let them trap us!" The crew fought valiantly, but the overwhelming numbers of the Empire began to take their toll. The shields of the Valiant flickered under the relentless fire, and Elena knew they had to act fast. "Pull back to the asteroid field," she commanded. "We'll use it as cover again." The crew quickly complied, maneuvering the ship through the maze of rocks. As they entered the field, Elena felt a surge of hope. The asteroids had saved them once before, and she knew they could use them to turn the tide again. "Stay close together and let them come to us," she instructed. One by one, the Imperial ships followed the Valiant into the field, their large frames struggling to navigate the tight spaces. Elena smiled as the enemy became disoriented, and the Valiant sprang into action. With newfound energy, the crew launched a surprise attack from behind the asteroids. Bright beams of energy lit up the dark space, and enemy ships began to fall, one after another. The crew's morale soared as they saw their strategy working. "This is our fight!" Elena shouted, her voice filled with passion. "We won't back down!" As the battle raged on, the crew of the USS Valiant proved that even a small ship could make a significant impact. Together, they fought not just for their survival, but for the future of humanity. The tide was turning, and the Empire was about to learn a lesson they would never forget. The battle had been fierce, but now silence fell over the wreckage of the Galactic Empire's fleet. The USS Valiant, battered but intact, floated among the debris of enemy ships. The crew was exhausted but exhilarated, their hearts filled with pride at their hard-won victory. Captain Elena Reyes surveyed the scene from the command center, a mix of disbelief and joy on her face. "We did it!" Jacob shouted, pumping his fist into the air. The rest of the crew erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the ship. They had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious against one of the mightiest fleets in the galaxy. "Hold on, everyone!" Elena called over the noise. "Let's not celebrate just yet. We need to assess the damage and make sure we're safe." The cheers quieted down as the crew focused on their tasks, ready to check for any remaining threats. Sarah, the engineer, began scanning their systems. "Shields are down to 30%, and we have some hull damage. We need to make repairs fast, but otherwise we're in good shape." Her voice was filled with relief, and the crew shared her excitement. "Good work, everyone," Elena said, feeling proud of her team. "We faced a fleet that wanted to crush us, and we turned the tide. Let's make sure we can get home safely." As they worked on repairs, Jacob reviewed the battle data. "Admiral Korik will be furious. We need to stay alert. He might send more ships after us once he realizes what happened here. I doubt he'll recover quickly after this defeat," Elena replied, her confidence growing. "But we should still be cautious. Let's set a course for Earth. We have a story to tell, and the galaxy needs to know that humanity will not back down." The crew quickly made the necessary repairs, their spirits high as they realized what they had accomplished. The Valiant was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of hope and resilience. They had shown that even a single human vessel could take on the might of the Empire and win. As they entered the ship's navigation systems, Elena felt a wave of emotion wash over her. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, but they had emerged stronger. "Set the course for home," she said, her voice steady. "Let's get back to Earth and share our victory with everyone." As the ship powered up and the stars shifted outside the viewports, the crew gathered around Elena. "What do we do now?" Sarah asked, her eyes shining with excitement. "We prepare," Elena replied, her tone serious. "We share what we've learned and train for future battles. The Empire will not forget us, and we need to be ready for whatever comes next." As the ship sped through space, the crew began to discuss their plans. They would share their battle tactics and the importance of teamwork with other human ships. They would train others to fight and ensure humanity would always be prepared to defend its home. Days later, as the Valiant approached Earth, the crew felt a mix of pride and anticipation. They were bringing back not just a victory, but a story of courage and hope. As they entered Earth's atmosphere, the ship was met with cheers from fellow humans who had gathered to welcome them home. When the Valiant landed, Elena stepped out to face the crowd. "We fought against the Empire and won," she shouted, her voice ringing with enthusiasm. The crowd erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted by the news. "This victory is for all of us. It shows that when we stand together, we can overcome anything." The people of Earth celebrated their heroes. The crew of the Valiant was honored, their bravery recognized across the globe. News of their triumph spread quickly, inspiring others to prepare for the challenges ahead. The battle was just the beginning of a new chapter for humanity. In the days that followed, Elena and her crew shared their experiences, teaching others what they had learned. They formed alliances with other human ships, creating a united front against the Galactic Empire. The Valiant became a symbol of hope, proving that even the smallest force could make a big difference. As they prepared for the next challenges, Elena knew that humanity was no longer alone. They were part of something greater, a collective force ready to defend their home. Together, they would face whatever the universe threw at them, and they would do it as one. With the spirit of unity and determination, the crew of the USS Valiant looked forward to the future. They had fought for their place in the galaxy, and now they would continue to forge a path for humanity. The battle had changed everything, and a new beginning awaited them all. The Resolute unleashed a torrent of energy blasts aimed at the Imperator. The shots struck the flagship's weapons array, causing a series of explosions. Alarms blared on the Imperator, and crew members scrambled to regain control. "Direct hit! They're losing power!" Rhea shouted, her voice filled with excitement. "Keep pushing!" Elena urged, her heart racing. "We can't let up now!" But the Empire was not finished yet. Zorak, the Imperial commander, roared in anger. "Reinforce the weapons! We will show them the might of the Empire!" The Imperator fired back, its weapons charging for one massive shot. Elena felt the ship tremble as the enemy prepared to retaliate. "Tarek, get us out of here!" she yelled. With quick reflexes, Tarek piloted the Resolute to the side just as the Imperator fired. The massive energy beam shot past them, narrowly missing the ship. The crew held their breath, relief washing over them as they escaped the deadly shot. "Good job, Tarek," Elena praised. "Now let's turn this around." "Bringing us back around," Tarek replied, his eyes sharp and focused. The Resolute executed a sharp turn, positioning itself for another strike against the Imperator. Elena could see the damage they had done, but she knew they had to finish the job. "Rhea, get me a lock on their engines," Elena commanded. "Locked on!" Rhea confirmed, her fingers dancing over the controls.
"Fire!"
Elena shouted again. The Resolute unleashed another barrage of energy blasts, targeting the Imperator's engines. The shot struck true, causing the flagship to shudder violently. Sparks flew and alarms blared as the Imperial crew struggled to regain control. "They're losing power!" Rhea exclaimed, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Now's our chance!" Elena said, feeling the rush of victory. "Let's finish this!" The crew of the Resolute poured all their energy into one final assault. They fired relentlessly at the Imperator, striking its hull and weakening its defenses. "Keep firing! Don't stop!" Elena shouted, her heart racing with adrenaline. With one final push, the Resolute unleashed its full power. A massive wave of energy blasted through the air and struck the Imperator directly. The flagship shook violently as it took the brunt of the attack. The crew of the Resolute watched in awe as the Imperator erupted in a dazzling explosion, pieces of the ship scattering into space. Cheers erupted on the Resolute, filled with joy and triumph. They had done the impossible. They had defeated the Galactic Empire's most powerful flagship. Elena stood at the helm, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. "We did it!" she exclaimed, beaming at her crew. "We showed them what humanity can achieve." But as the crew celebrated, they knew that the battle had changed the galaxy forever. They had struck a blow against tyranny, and their fight was far from over. As they looked out at the stars, they understood that their journey was just beginning. The battle was over, but the echoes of victory still rang in the hearts of the crew aboard the Resolute. They had achieved what many thought impossible. They had defeated the Galactic Empire's most powerful flagship, the Imperator. As the crew gathered on the bridge, their faces were bright with joy and disbelief. "Captain, we did it!" Ensign Rhea shouted, her voice filled with excitement. "We really took down the Empire's flagship." Elena smiled, feeling a mix of pride and relief wash over her. "Yes, we did. But this is just the beginning. We must be ready for what comes next." As the Resolute floated in the vastness of space, the crew assessed the aftermath of the battle. The remains of the Imperator drifted nearby, a testament to their hard-fought victory. But Elena knew that the Empire would not sit idle. They would retaliate, and the fight for freedom was far from over. "Communications, report any enemy activity," Elena commanded. Tarek, the pilot, nodded and tapped at his console. "Nothing yet, Captain, but I'm sure they'll regroup," Tarek replied, his expression serious. "Let's send a message to the Earth," Elena said, her voice firm. "The galaxy needs to know what we've achieved." With a few quick commands, Rhea opened a communication line. The crew watched as the message sent out, filled with hope and determination. "Earth, this is Captain Elena Cruz of the Resolute. We have struck a blow against the Galactic Empire. We have defeated the Imperator, but we need your support. The Empire will not take this lightly. We must prepare for their response," she said, her voice steady. As the message transmitted, the crew shared a moment of reflection. They had come together in a time of crisis, and now they were part of something much larger than themselves. "Captain, I think we need to establish a plan for defense," Rhea suggested. "The Empire will likely send more ships to retaliate." "Agreed," Elena replied, her mind racing with ideas. "We need to form alliances with other planets. We're stronger together." The crew began to discuss their next steps. They knew they needed to gather allies and build a united front against the Empire. As they talked, Elena felt a sense of hope growing. They had proven that humanity could stand up to oppression, and now it was time to spread that message. Days passed, and the Resolute continued to patrol the sector, waiting for any signs of the Empire. They received messages of support from nearby planets, grateful for the courage the crew had shown. People began to rally behind the human spirit, inspired by their victory. But the Empire was not idle. Reports came in of Imperial ships gathering, preparing for a counterattack. Elena knew they had to be ready. "Prepare the ship for battle," she commanded. "We need to be ready to defend ourselves and our allies." As the crew worked, Elena reflected on their journey. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, but the fight was far from over. She felt a responsibility to lead her crew into the future, to ensure their sacrifices were not in vain. "Captain," Tarek called, his voice urgent. "We have incoming ships on the scanners." "It's the Empire!" Elena's heart raced, but she kept her composure. "All hands, battle stations. Let's show them what we're made of." As the crew took their positions, Elena felt a surge of determination. They would not back down. They had become a symbol of hope for many, and they would continue to fight for freedom. When the Imperial ships appeared, the crew of the Resolute stood ready. They were no longer just a lone vessel, they were a beacon of defiance against tyranny. As the first shots rang out, Elena knew that this was just the beginning of their legacy. The Resolute would continue to fight, and together they would inspire a movement that could change the galaxy forever. They had turned the tide, but now they had to hold the line. The battle for freedom was ongoing, and they were ready to face whatever came next.